In Front of the Storm is brought to you by Tadpoles Marine, your authorized tracker boats dealer.
Tell God thank you. Tell God thank you.
On Sunday, March 3rd, 72-year-old Ernestine Reese lost her home in Beauregard, Alabama.
That trailer completely gone.
A powerful EF4 tornado flattened hers and homes of hundreds of her neighbors in Alabama and Georgia. The tornado that targeted Lee County, Alabama, packed winds of 170 miles per hour and left a trail of destruction almost a mile wide.
Trailer homes were turned upside down with the wheels where the roof should be. Trees cut off at about 15 feet in the air. Unbelievable devastation.
Among the 23 people killed, Taylor Thornton, a fourth grader, described as an extremely happy child, and the youngest victim, 6-year-old Armando Hernandez. For several days, forecasters predicted the possibility of high tornado activity.
I had heard there was thunderstorms coming and possible tornadoes, but I didn't know the extent of it.
Before the March 3rd tornado hit, the National Weather Service was able to give people about 8 to 9 minutes warning.
He had just enough time to dive to the couch, which the couch is about a foot away from the screen door, and he just held onto the couch for dear life.
It was one of the deadliest tornado events in Alabama since 2011. According to the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, April of 2011 was one of the most active, destructive, and deadly tornado months on record. During a 3-day span in mid-April, a tornado outbreak led to 43 deaths in 16 states, including 2 in Tushka, Oklahoma.
I remember the sounds that it was making. It's just very eerie.
Chaos doesn't even come close to the word.
I just didn't remember having so much panic because obviously something was right over us.
Whoa!
Hi everyone, I'm Lisanne Anderson. If you've been in Texoma for any length of time, you know severe storm watches and warnings are something we deal with at any time from, say, mid-March till early June. For the next 30 minutes, our team of meteorologists will get you and your family in front of the storm. It was around 7:25 p.m. when an EF3 tornado cut a swath 4 miles wide, 15 miles long through the Atoka County town of Tushka. 2 sisters, Sammy Lee DeMint and Ava Waldrop, died in that storm that left dozens injured.
You know, being from here in Oklahoma, we're used to the storms all the time.
We had a lot of activities going in the springtime, as we still do, and those things were ramping up that afternoon to leave campus and things, and so a very normal day.
We had a baseball team that were leaving early, and it seems like the softball team was practicing or going somewhere. So
I coached junior high baseball at that time here at school, and we'd been to a tournament during the day, and I just got the kids back to the school, bus parked, kids back, with parents. And I also serve on the Tushka Fire Department, volunteer fire department. So we got this page out to watch for weather.
Normally, when you get one of the watches, it's over real quick, but this one just kept getting more and more intense. More people calling and checking, hey, have you seen the weather? It sounds like it's going to get bad. That just kept happening over and over, and so it was like, hey, you need to pay attention on this one.
I knew that the weather was getting bad, but you just still don't know that it's to the extent that, what we experienced. Again, if you live in Oklahoma, you've seen bad weather.
Whirling dervish, that funnel coming down and hitting that ground and the debris going up. It's I won't ever forget what it looks like. I don't really ever want to see it again. I could watch it from afar, but I don't want to be looking right at it coming at me.
For more than 90 years, people in Tushka have used this underground cellar as a place to find shelter from the storms. So when that April 14th tornado barreled down on the town, everyone instinctively knew to get to the school district. More than 100, about a quarter of the town's population, crammed into that underground shelter, children and dogs huddled with adults on that dirt floor. And when the tornado hit, the sound was deafening.
As the tornado came, you could feel the pressure. That's the way I described it. It just felt like that safe room, even though it had, I don't know, 2 or 3 foot thick concrete all around us, it just felt like there was a pressure buildup in that room, like the air was getting tighter or the pressure was getting greater.
I don't remember anybody acting too panicked, but other than the people trying to get inside the door and people trying to get them in, and they were covered in grass, and there was fear on her face when she finally did get in, so you knew that it was a little bit crazy.
When people who sought safety in storm shelters emerged, they found utter devastation.
When we first opened the door, you could see that it was bad, but we were actually facing the opposite side of the school, so we couldn't see how bad it really was until we went around the street, and then we saw the school.
I remember that we opened, it had regular walk-through doors, steel doors, and we opened them up and walked out, and the safe room is set up to where as you walk out, you're going to have to walk around a corner to see back to the old school campus. And I remember there's a few of us when we rounded the corner, there was no more school there. It was a big pile of rubble.
You're just looking at everything that you've known your entire life is gone. I graduated from this school. The gym that I went through my graduation ceremony was gone.
This was really crazy. And I almost feel like I didn't think about it being real for a while. But I remember just looking in there and thinking, okay, well, what do we do now? This was my senior year. I'm done. I'm never going to get to go back here. What are we going to do?
I'm going to say, and again, this is an estimate, but if you look at a school as a percentage, 90% of our campus was destroyed.
The day after the tornado hit Tushka, I, along with several of my KTEN colleagues, came to town. We witnessed firsthand the devastation left behind.
It was pretty tough work. People were trapped down county roads, and trees were just laid over. May have to cut through 50 trees to get to a residential area.
You just see people walking around in a daze like they didn't know what was going on. People hugging each other and crying. Some of it was tears of relief because they'd found someone they were looking for. I don't know that there's any words to describe it. It was just horrible.
Tushka is home to about 345 people. At the time, Oklahoma officials said that tornado destroyed 149 homes and businesses in and around Tushka.
There were people in their home cellars, outdoor cellars. Homes had collapsed on those cellars. Trees had fallen over and blocked people in, locking them in. So we had to go back to our fire units, the trucks. We had saws, we had things like that, tools that we could use. We started immediately then making the rounds, trying to check these homes that we could tell that had been destroyed inside the city limits, trying to find ways to cut people out of their cellars, into these homes and see, if there was anybody who had been trapped. And that started from inside the city. We began to work, and then it was going to, the outer bank, expand out, because the tornado had damaged homes out to the west of town. And then as it passed through town and went on east, there was more and more homes that were damaged. But the immediate concern was right there in the middle, right there in the town of Tushka.
And at the very first minute, you're just kind of shocked, and it takes a minute to take it all in. And I don't know how long it took for me to take it all in, but I know the first question I was asked, and then that's when I realized, okay, at this point, it's bigger than me, and then just seeing this, the physical devastation.
It was really weird. I'm not a technology guy, but they couldn't get through with their cell phones to call for help, but they could get on Facebook, and they were sending Facebook messages out, and we were receiving those. People, we had a highway patrolman and law enforcement coming in going, we've received these messages right here. These people are trapped in their homes. And we were able to get to them and get them out.
The tornado that hit Tushka April 14th, 2011 was labeled an EF3. Whenever a storm warning or a storm watch is put out, it's our storm chasers and spotters can make all the difference for the National Weather Service.
Storm spotters are very crucial to our warning operations. They are our eyes and ears on the ground.
So what's the difference in a storm spotter and a storm chaser? That part of the story, when In Front of the Storm returns.
Oh my God.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of NOAA's GOES-R, America's most advanced weather eye in the sky.
The events of April 2011 were a real eye-opener for the National Weather Service. One of the ways the Weather Service has improved forecasting since 2011 has been to launch the GOES satellite into orbit. The satellites provide images of weather patterns and severe storms every 30 seconds. In fact, here's a look at the March 3rd storm in Alabama from one of the GOES satellites.
We've upgraded our satellites with the launch of the new GOES or geostationary 16 and now 17 that's covering the western half of the country. So there have been constant improvements in the technology that we use and the remote sensing data that we use to try and track these ahead of time and in real time.
Also, in response to that 2011 tornado season, the National Weather Service created the Weather Ready National Ambassador Program, which we at KTEN are a member. We've partnered with the Weather Service to make sure you are prepared before any severe weather event.
And even with all the advancements in forecasting technology, storm spotters continue to be the eyes and ears on the ground for the Weather Service. And there is a difference between a storm spotter and a storm chaser.
Yeah, Alana, a storm chaser will often travel hundreds of miles a year in hunt of severe weather. They could be a trained meteorologist, a thrill seeker, or someone who works for the media. A storm spotter, on the other hand, usually stays confined within a certain area and relays information to local emergency management officers, first responders, and local media.
Yeah. Trained storm spotters are not typically meteorologists. Sometimes they're just folks wanting to learn more about the weather and provide a service to their community. Every year, the National Weather Service holds a storm spotter training session throughout Texoma, including this one at Grayson College in February.
Out here with me tonight, I have Tom Bradshaw, who is our meteor.
For more than 30 years, trained spotters have been most commonly associated with amateur radios.
Anybody with a scanner can program our frequency in.
One of those helping to relay real-time, ground-level information to the National Weather Service is storm spotter Wade Graves.
Storm spotters, especially here in Grayson County. The Weather Service radar is down here in Fort Worth. Okay, we're up here in Grayson County. The radar beam, because of the curvature of the earth, the Weather Service sees what's up here in the upper layer of the clouds, but what they're missing is what's down here on the ground. So we provide the missing piece.
Today, many spotters relay information using smartphones and social media,
whether it be through Facebook or Twitter on the National Weather Service side. And we will continue to monitor those social media feeds during severe and hazardous weather events and pull those reports in, and they become a part of our warning process and help us make our decisions whether we need to issue, extend, or cancel a warning and get that latest information out.
In 2011, when that tornado hit Tushka, some 100 people gathered into this 45-foot tube on the school grounds to seek shelter.
It turns out that saved 80 lives, or however many people actually fit into that, because people around here, they came to the school to get into shelters.
When In Front of the Storm continues, the number of public shelters available to you here in Texoma. After the tornado, it took Tushka schools 2 years to rebuild, but when they did, and it was complete, they included 3 built-in storm shelters.
We've kind of done tests and things when we built this building, and kind of worst case scenarios, how long it would take a child possibly that did have a physical disability, possible wheelchair, anything like that, how quickly they could get there. And honestly, 30 to 40 seconds is about the maximum time frame a student could possibly be away from a safe room at Tushka.
Most of the recently built school safety rooms in Oklahoma were funded through voter-approved bonds, but some districts have used federal funds. According to the Oklahoma Department of Emergency Management, Every time the president declares a disaster in Oklahoma, 15 cents of every dollar spent by the federal government for recovery efforts is set aside for hazard mitigation projects. In 2011, the state of Oklahoma started the Sooner Safe rebate program that draws twice a year, like a lottery, all over the state for helping people get tornado shelters. Most Oklahoma-based tribes also offer assistance for storm shelters for their tribal members who own homes. In Marshall County, Emergency Manager Robert Cheney says this will be the first year Marshall County has offered the Sooner Safe rebate program.
Gives them the opportunity to get a safe room, and if you get one of the in-ground units, they're roughly $2,500, $2,600. So if FEMA pays for 75% of that, your out-of-pocket expense is about $600 to $800.
I have complete trust in those safe rooms because I was sitting in one when a tornado came right over the top. They work. If you ask me, they work. They keep you safe. They keep you away from it.
In Tushka, the public storm shelter saved more than 80 lives on that day in 2011. So we wanted to know how many public storm shelters there are in our area. In North Texas, Grayson County does not have a public storm shelter for a variety of reasons. The same goes for Fannin as well as Lamar in Cook County. Now in Oklahoma, we discovered that 8 out of the 14 counties in our viewing area have public storm shelters, as you can see here. A private storm shelter can cost more than $5,000. These test videos show that they can withstand the equivalent of an EF5 tornado.
Oh no, what it destroyed.
Storm shelters can protect you against flying debris such as cars, trees, metals, and toys. Experts recommend having a plan in place long before a tornado threatens. Go to a storm cellar or interior room away from windows and outside walls. In a mobile home, your best bet is to evacuate to a more sturdy building or shelter. And the National Weather Service suggests having multiple ways to receive warnings, like a phone, TV, or a NOAA weather radio. So far this half hour, we've focused a lot on how to keep you safe during a tornado, but flash flooding and hail are also concerned during severe weather event. We'll discuss that when In Front of the Storm continues.
But we never want to discount the flood threat and the flash flood threat that happens very commonly in our area also, and in fact actually causes more fatalities per year across the country than hail, wind, and tornadoes combined.
Typically with severe weather, we always think about tornadoes, large hail damaging winds, but one event that is often overlooked and we are most concerned for is flash flooding. Now, flash flooding accounts for all of the deaths combined when it comes to severe weather.
Yeah, that is absolutely right, David. It's a very dangerous severe weather hazard, and typically the National Weather Service will issue a flash flood watch about 24 to 48 hours prior to the event happening, and this is going to encompass a large portion of the viewing area, indicating that it could happen during that time.
And a flash flood warning typically encompasses a smaller area, really along a river or a creek that is most susceptible to flooding while rain is actually occurring.
That's absolutely right, David. And the National Weather Service actually says that as little as 6 inches of rainfall of that fast-moving water can actually knock a person off their feet. If we double that total to around a foot of water, that's when we start getting into that territory where it can start to sweep away some of those smaller vehicles such as cars. And if we get closer to that 18 to 24 inches of rushing water, that is actually enough to carry away one of those larger trucks or SUVs.
And according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, 86 deaths have happened per year on average over the past 30 years. But this number has risen, unfortunately, to 95 per year over the last 10 years. And in the last 3 years, that number has eclipsed to 100. From 2008 through 2017, the top 10 states with the most flood disasters include Oklahoma, who is tied for second. Now keep in mind that Texas, a couple years ago, back in 2017, saw Hurricane Harvey, which resulted in 70 flood-related deaths. And that basically just reminds everybody that to turn around and do not drown.
8 years after that tornado hit Tushka, the school has been rebuilt. But the memories of that deadly storm still linger.
When I think about Tushka School, I still think about the old building. I don't think about this as being Tushka School because this wasn't my school. Now it is as a teacher, but I don't think of it the same way. It is neat coming back though and being able to tell the kids, you know, I was a senior, I was there when the school blew away. Aren't you glad that we have this new school now? So there was a blessing in it. We needed a new building and we got one, just not the way we wanted.
Difficult day because there's people that lost everything. There's people that lost loved ones. There's people that lost everything they had. But it was also a grateful day. People were thankful, you know, that there was a place for them to go and a place for them to stay safe. You know, there's a lot of things you can lose in this world that can be replaced. And whenever you're able to walk out of the path of a tornado unharmed, you're pretty thankful for that.
During any severe weather event, you can count on the KTEN Weather Team to be here to keep you in front of the storm with real-time updates on the air, online, and on social media. We'll be right back.
As we enter another severe weather season, we ask you to please take storm alerts seriously.
Yeah, Alana, and a good way to do that, to stay in front of the storm, is by downloading the KTEN Weather app. If you haven't already downloaded it, you can find it in the Apple or Google stores.
And more good news, you can now tune into our radio partners at KKAJ, KYNZ, KTRX, and KVSO to hear important weather updates. For all of us at KTEN News, thanks for watching In Front of the Storm. Have a great night.